10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 189. Hey everybody, welcome back once again to the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. My name is Nick Manella. I'm the creator and host of the show, and I'll be guiding you through about the next 10 minutes of jazz instruction. If you're brand new to the podcast, welcome in. We are so happy to have you here, and if you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back once again. So before we jump into the meat of the episode, just a reminder that you can grab the PDF to this episode and every other episode that we've ever done on our Patreon page, and you can find that by going to 10minutejazzlesson.com, clicking on one of the Patreon banners, and signing up to support the show with only $3 a month, and that very, very small donation gets you access to everything that we've ever done, all the PDFs, various bonuses, all kinds of really cool stuff over there, sure to take your jazz playing to the next level. Got to give a shout out to a couple of people that have joined the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson family this week. Thank you to Andres and Matt. Thank you guys for signing up to support the show, keeping it coming at you in high quality each and every week, and we encourage all of you to go over there and do that. Patreon's such a great platform that allows you to support us directly, no middlemen whatsoever, and show that you appreciate this podcast, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you to all of our patrons. We've got over 250 people supporting the show. All right, let's jump into today's episode. So today is part 3 on playing tensions in context. We already went over playing over a major 7th chord. Last week we went over playing a dominant 7th chord, and you guessed it, this week we are going to go over playing over a minor 7th chord and talk about some of the tensions, listen to how they sound, and get into some of the structures that we can superimpose over a minor 7th chord to give us some really cool sounds. All right, so let's talk about kind of the acceptable tensions over a minor 7 chord. The tensions that I think of when I think about this particular chord are 9, 11, and 13. And the interesting thing about these chords is that we're not going to alter any of those notes. We're simply just going to use them in their plain form, but they do give us some really, really cool sounds. So the 9 is really nice because it's only a half step away from the 3rd over a minor chord. So that creates a really, really interesting half step tension. 11 is great. It's both a whole step away from the 3rd and away from the 5th. And, usually on major chords, we avoid the 11, at least as a note that we like to hang out on. But on minor, we get to actually use that note. Because of the presence of those two whole steps, it actually kind of makes sense to hang out on that note. So that's a little bit different than in the major context. And then we have the 13, otherwise known as the 6, and we get a really nice sound with that note because it's a whole step above the 5th, but it is a half step below the 7th. And this is one of my favorite notes to play over a minor 7 chord. Really, really tension-filled sound, an extremely interesting note. So using these 3 tensions, we can come up with 4 different structures that we can superimpose over a minor 7 chord. Now, just like we did in the other episodes, we're going to use a C chord as our example chord to build all of these other chords on the top of it. So if we think about a C minor 7 chord when we're talking about all these other structures, that's kind of where we're at. So let's talk about the first one. We're going to talk about playing a D minor 7 chord over the top of a C minor 7 chord. So that is another minor 7 chord built off of the 9th of the current chord that's happening at the moment. Now this one's really nice because it actually covers all of our bases. It gives us the 9, it gives us the 11, it gives us the 13, and it gives us the root of the C chord, actually. So this is a nice mix because obviously the root is going to be the most stable note, and then we're mixing in all three tensions using this structure. So let's check out what a D minor 7 chord over a C minor 7 chord, building a minor 7 chord off of the 9, sounds like. So you can hear that one has all three of the tensions in there. What I really like about that is if the tension is getting to be too much, you can always go back to that root because it's actually included in the chord structure when you're playing off that 9. So all three tensions, great place to start and sort of investigate those. And this is a great one because it's really easy to think about. You just think about a minor 7 arpeggio, a whole step up from the root. Very, very simple. All right, let's move on to the next one. So the next one is going to be a dominant 7th chord built off of the 11th. So if we're playing over a C minor 7 chord, it's going to be an F7 chord built off of that C minor chord. So here we get the 11, the 13, the root, and the 3rd. So this is an even nicer mix of notes that are really, really stable. You know, we get that root and that 3rd, but then we also get the two more unstable tension-filled notes, which would be the 11 and the 13. So this will completely change the sound of the way that these tensions are framed, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking to just frame them in a bunch of different ways. Let's check out what a dominant 7th chord built off of the 11 sounds like. So you can hear that one does sound very, very different than the one that came before it. It's a little bit more inside, and then we frame those outside notes with those two very, very stable tones. Love the sound of that one as well. All right, now moving into a little bit more stable territory, this next one is really going to highlight the 13. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a half diminished 7th chord, a minor 7 flat 5 chord. We're going to build that off of that 13. So what we end up getting is we get the 13, the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. So this one is the same basically as playing a minor 6 arpeggio, but we're just thinking about it in a different way. Now we're thinking about A minor 7 flat 5, A half diminished, over that C minor 7 chord. And I think it just kind of gives us a different sound rather than playing just the root 6 arpeggio. So let's check out what this one sounds like. We're building a minor 7 flat 5 chord built off of the 6th. So A minor 7 flat 5 built off of C minor 7. And that one is one of my absolute favorite sounds over that because it's just that one tension note. So it's like inside, outside, inside, outside. Really, really like that. And I do love the sound of that 6 over the top of the minor chord. That is one of my absolute favorite sounds. All right, now the next one is actually going to be the least tense of all of them, and it features the 9. So a lot of people will ask me, how do I start to work the 9 into my playing, the sound of the 9? Well, it's actually kind of simple, especially on a minor chord. We can superimpose a very simple structure over the top of a C minor 7 chord, and that's just a major 7 arpeggio built off of the 3rd. So really all that is 3, 5, 7, 9. If you think about that, over a C minor 7 chord, that's just E flat major 7. So this gives you real access to the 9th and starts getting that sound into your playing in a way that makes a lot of sense and in a way that is framed really, really nicely. So it's just a minor 9 chord, but omitting the root so that we're not playing it. So let's check out what E flat major 7, a major 7 chord built off of the flat 3rd, sounds like over C minor 7. So you can hear these all are very, very interesting sounds. We're using a lot of the same notes, but again, it's the way that you frame them. It's the context in which you present these extensions that I think leads to some of the most interesting playing. Instead of just picking one of those tension notes out and saying, okay, here we go, we're going to play this, it's really all about finding a structure for those tensions and playing them in context, which is, of course, what these episodes are all about. So next week on the show, to wrap all this up, we're going to actually put this over a tune and hear what, a really heavy use of some of these structures over different chord qualities sounds like in context. So that's coming at you next week. Make sure you tune in for that. That'll be kind of the culmination of everything, is to show you how to do this in real life. All right, we hope you enjoyed the episode. Remember to go and grab the PDF. That way you'll have this stuff in your jazz education library, and you can always go back and remember what tensions we were talking about, and remember the structures that we were putting them in. Remember, you can grab that PDF at our Patreon site, 10minutejazzlesson.com. Click on one of the Patreon banners, get yourself signed up to support the show, and get your hands on all those fantastic learning materials. Remember also to sign up for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Community Facebook group. That's where we discuss a lot of the stuff that's going on in these episodes, and that's a really good place to be to sort of form a community element to this podcast and connect with some of the other listeners out there that are trying to do the same thing you are. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week with a brand new episode. Bye.